Great. We are here at the Maryland State Highway Administration offices in downtown Baltimore. Here today with the Maryland Historical Trust, accepting this awesome award, the Maryland Preservation Award for Excellence in Media and Research, which we're very excited about, for our Maryland Railroad Statewide Historic Context, which is a great tool for us in helping deliver our transportation programs. It's kind of interesting. People are asking, why does the highway department care about railroads? Well, they're really interesting and they're all over the state of Maryland, and they were really integral in terms of the development of the state. And as we plan highway projects, we are often encountering remnants of those railroads, either former railroads that are now ruins, or we're encountering extant railroads. And they are integral in terms of how did towns get in Maryland where they are. So we need to take those into account as we plan new highway projects. And one of the things that we had long realized is that we've been pretty inconsistent in terms of how we approach them. How do we categorize them? What's significant about them? So we have our great State Highway Administration Cultural Resources team, in partnership with funding from the Federal Highway Administration, put together this railroads context, which is available online. Everybody can go take a look at it, and it will get you really intrigued about railroads in Maryland. There's all kinds of intriguing stories in there. So we're really excited about it today. We're very, very grateful to Fed Highway. We're grateful to MHT for presenting the award. So without further ado, I would like to turn it over to the Director of Maryland Historical Trust, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Steve. So Steve said, my name is Elizabeth Hughes. I'm the Director of the Maryland Historical Trust, and I serve as Maryland State Historic Preservation Officer. I'm delighted to be here today to present the 2024 Maryland Preservation Award for Excellence in Media and Research to the Maryland Department of Transportation, State Highway Administration for the Maryland Railroads Historic Context, the first comprehensive work on this topic in the state. And before I recite my prepared remarks, I do want to say we're so lucky in Maryland to have such a wonderful partner in the Maryland Department of Transportation, particularly the State Highway Administration. I know I have an opportunity to talk to my fellow SHPOs across the country, and often when we get together, there are complaints about their relationship with state highways. And, you know, I'm always very proud to be able to share what a wonderful partner we have here in Maryland. So we certainly, this is an example of the great work that SHA does in terms of its cultural resources division, but just in general, we're very fortunate in Maryland. Since 1975, the Maryland Historical Trust Board of Trustees has honored the outstanding preservation efforts of individuals, businesses, nonprofit organizations, local governments, and state agencies who protect, steward, and share the historic places and cultural heritage that make Maryland unique, something that the research in this context study highlights. And I know our review and compliance staff would really wanted to be here today. They had a conflict, but they want to send their congratulations as well, and thanks for this wonderful work. Maryland is known for its history in transportation and industry, thanks to its wide-ranging transportation and trade routes, opening Maryland to development and commerce. Railway companies like the B&O Railroad, which opened its first section between Baltimore and Ellicotts Mills in 1830, and would reach Wheeling, West Virginia by 1853, helped connect all corners of the state to the nation as a whole. The historic context study conducted by the State Highway Administration builds on the history by locating, identifying, and evaluating the railroad resources throughout Maryland, beginning with the establishment of the B&O Railroad, which will celebrate its 200th anniversary in 2027, through to the creation of Amtrak in the 1970s. When the context study was initially conceived, the plan had been to map and describe all historic railroad corridors in the state. However, the breadth of these resources proved to be far beyond the scope of the project. Instead of allowing this to limit the study, the context's key strength was developed, the concept of the foundational Maryland Railroad. 10 of these railroads were identified and can be used to evaluate other railroad resources through a framework of eligibility. If someone wishes to research an unevaluated railroad resource, an easy-to-follow single-page flowchart guide can be used to simplify the project. This opens up research on railways to professional and amateur academics alike. On behalf of the Maryland Historical Trust, I'm pleased to present this Excellence in Media and Research Award to Steve Archer, Assistant Division Chief of the Environmental Planning Division of the State Highway Administration. Thank you for this incredible resource. It's really going to benefit all of us in the state of Maryland. So Steve, you want to come up?
Thank you. Thank you once again, and this is not my award alone. We have an amazing team that pulled this together. Skelly and Loy, who's represented here today by Allison Ross, who may want to come up, and Matt Manning from our own team collaborated strongly on this. And as Elizabeth said, we cannot do this without the support of the Maryland Historical Trust. Both our compliance team and the team, including their other partners at MHT with the library, our data folks are providing information to us all the time to make this happen. So it is a great partnership that we really appreciate to having that collaborative relationship. So I'm going to turn it over to Allison and Matt, if you would like to say something.
Well, I think Allison kind of, or Elizabeth kind of stole some of my thunder. I was going to talk about some of the key concepts that we came up with when we were doing this context. And as she mentioned, we initially, I think there are two things that kind of set it apart from some of the other concepts that are out there, and that's one of those being the idea of the foundational Maryland railroads. And what the foundational Maryland railroads allowed us to do, we had, excuse me. So our initial plan was, as Elizabeth mentioned, to come up with a map of all the resources that we encounter so frequently, so that when we go out there and we see a project, we don't have to do a lot of extra research. The idea was to kind of streamline and simplify things. And when the foundational Maryland railroads, identifying those sort of let us skip that part of having to identify all those railroads, because we realized that there were way too many railroads to actually map. In the amount of time that we had, it would have taken a years-long process. So the other part that we came up with was the flow chart that sort of distills everything in the context into an easy-to-follow path. So we had these 10 foundational Maryland railroads that we identified, and essentially those were the railroads that we knew would be significant in the state of Maryland and the ones that were the most important. And so if we came across one of those, we knew, okay, we have this process to follow. If we have one of those in our APE, our area of potential effects, then we're probably going, those resources are kind of significant along the whole corridor, and we're going to need to check out and see if we have it. We need to do a DOE and see if there are any significant contributing components inside that corridor. But if we don't, so rather than having to identify all those railroads, we have these 10, and then we know if it's not one of those. The context says that most likely simple things along that railroad, things that are very common, like the railroad bed or the tracks or the signage and the right-of-way, those are not going to be eligible for the National Register. So maybe you've got a bridge or a tunnel as part of another railroad. Those are kind of bigger components that might have eligibility on their own, but those other railroads aren't necessarily going to be contributing or significant. And then so the chart just lets you kind of go through and immediately kind of follow along and say, all right, this is what I'm doing, and this is what it means to do if you have this object or this situation. And I think that's the thing that kind of set this apart and made it took it from being like a guidance document to being more of a tool that can really be useful. And I think that's what I'm excited about using it in the future, and I hope that's what other people are finding useful as well. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, it was it was a challenging project to come up with the criteria to evaluate the foundational railroads, but in the end, I really appreciated the project. I learned a lot, and I always appreciate learning more about railroads and railroad history and learning how to evaluate them better. So I thank you for this, and I really appreciate working with Matt And I'm here on behalf of my coworkers at Skelly and Lloyd that are listed down here. I'm representing all of them. Thank you.
Thanks, Alison.
And we also have two special guests without whom we cannot do this at all. We have Federal Highway Administration, Valeria Romazova. This work is funded with state planning and research money, which is a great program for Federal Highway to supply the state for these kinds of projects that are beyond what we can accomplish at an individual project level. These are tools that will help us deliver safe, effective transportation in the future by streamlining this process. So we don't have to puzzle and argue over a resource's significance. We're going to know by developing these tools, and we're going to be able to deliver projects faster, more effectively, and that really take significant historic resources into account. So we're very appreciative from Federal Highway for that. And we also have Will Pines, our administrator here at the State Highway Administration, whose leadership is greatly appreciated to allow us the bandwidth to do these kinds of projects that help us deliver. So I will turn it over to Will. You want to go first? Will first? Okay.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. And for those of you joining us on the live stream, I want to thank you for joining us today and start by congratulating this phenomenal team. A lot of great work here. We don't always have the opportunity to really celebrate the work that we do. And this preservation award, one of the things that I love about it is it just demonstrates how we live in Maryland, we love our legacy and our history, and it shows in this kind of great work and effort. I grew up in the historic town of Princess Anne, and now I enjoy regularly the opportunities to partake of the Ma and Pa Trail, where a great railroad system was converted into a great shared use path. And those are just two examples of some of the amazing infrastructure that's left behind in our state and the history that we have. So it's a great place to live and work and do all the things that we do. We're part of the community, and that's why our team works so hard to deliver together. I want to take a moment to especially thank the Maryland Historic Trust and Federal Highway for the continued partnerships that we have together. This is only one of the many great things that we do. We could do a lot of award-winning things, but I'm really happy that we're able to celebrate what we've done here today. I mean, who doesn't love trains, right? It's just awesome. Everything from robber barons to the B&O Museum. We've got really cool history here in Maryland, and I'm glad we had the opportunity to celebrate it. So thank the team again for all the hard work, for the partnership, and I look forward to continued progress on doing great things for Maryland. Thank you.
Thank you, Will, and on behalf of the Highway Administration and myself, I am also here to thank you for progressing with this project and developing such an accomplishment and getting an award. And Federal Highway Administration is very happy that we have this SPNR program, State Planning and Research Program, and we were able to contribute to this great accomplishment. I would like to thank you all who contributed to this project and to this accomplishment, and certainly congratulate all of you for receiving this award.
Close us out. All right, well, thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.